Happy Tuesday, everyone. Nice to be back in the chambers. I will call this meeting in order at 3:01 p.m. And Commissioner Minor, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce the person who will be delivering our invocation this afternoon. Reverend Sylvia Jones serves the congregation of Mount Zion AME Church in Havana, Florida. Of course, we also know her as the co-chair of the Capital Area Justice Ministries Affordable Housing Committee, which successfully advocated for dedicated funding for affordable housing. Reverend Jones, thank you very much for joining us today, and we'd be honored if you could deliver our invocation.
Amen. Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, thank you for allowing us to gather in this Leon County Commission meeting, where the well-being of each constituent of Leon County is our primary concern. Open the hearts and the minds of each commissioner to your wisdom as we navigate the complexities of governing. Give each of them your wisdom and the discernment as they tackle each issue. Bless them with the strength and boldness necessary to fight for each citizen of Leon County. Always keep in front of them that homelessness is not normal. No one should have to sleep in the woods. A school lunch should not be the only meal that a child can look forward to during the day. Gun violence is not normal. Immigration process is not normal. Also, bless the commissioner's aides, county staff, and all who do the grunt work to make this county work efficiently. In your holy name I pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Commissioners, we have two proclamations, both by Commissioner Maddox. Commissioner Maddox, you are recognized. The first proclamation is for recognizing the Fairview Middle School football team as Division I champions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you said, the first proclamation I have, Mr. Chair, is for Fairview Middle School. If the middle school come up, the football team come up, the coaches and principal. Okay, they just stand, okay. Come on up. I'm a little biased to this team because my daughter, Miley Maddox, and now Miriam Rogers, stand up, y'all. Y'all was part of, stand up, hurry up, stand up. Jesus Christ. We're cheerleaders on the team, so I'm really excited about today. Later on, Mr. Chair, just to show the athletic excellence that Principal Myers is fostering over at Fairview, I'll be asking for a proclamation to celebrate the championship girls basketball team that just won last night against Griffin? Yeah, Griffin, so really proud of them. The proclamation reads, whereas Fairview Middle School Falcons have upheld a proud tradition of athletic excellence and sportsmanship since the school's establishment. And whereas for the last 5 years, the Fairview Middle School football program has flourished under the leadership of head coach, Mr. Alfonso Zoe Dorsey, while the program has grown with a consistent coaching staff, including 2 new additional coaches this year. And whereas under the exceptional leadership of Coach Dorsey, the Falcons have not only excelled in athletic competition, but also maintained a high standard of academic achievement with over half of the team constantly making honor roll. Let's give a hand for that. That's huge. And whereas the Falcons football program requires its players to uphold high academic standards, including maintaining their GPA, completing weekly grade checks, and consistently demonstrating good behavior in the classroom and throughout the school. And whereas Coach Dorsey and the coaching staff make it a priority to engage with players both in the classroom and in the hallways, ensuring they are role models of excellence, responsibility, and sportsmanship at all times. And whereas the Falcons' achievements on the football field are a direct reflection of their dedication, teamwork, and hard work, with an impressive record of 4 championship game appearances and 2 hard-earned championship trophies in the last 5 years. That is a dynasty right there. And whereas the Falcons showcased resilience and determination, culminating in a triumphant victory on October the 7th, 2025 by defeating, Commissioner probably gonna hate this part, R. Frank Nims Middle School Trojans, thereby earning the prestigious title of Division I champions. And whereas the achievements of the Fairview Middle School Falcons highlight the importance of youth sports in building character, leadership, and lifelong values within our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Leon County Commissioners in Leon County, Florida, that we recognize the Fairview Middle School 2025 Division I football champs and commend the entire team, coaching staff, and school community for their outstanding accomplishments, commitment, and excellence. This is signed by the commission, attested to by the county administrator. Congratulations.
So we want to thank you. We hold our students to very high regard. We have 3 rules that we have all of our students follow. One is be safe, be responsible, and be respectful. And we live by these day in and day out. And because the football season is over does not mean that their job is over. They are going to go on to continue to be excellent representations for Fairview Middle School. I also want to thank Coach Dorsey. Coach Dorsey is our building maintenance supervisor. He has brought on additional coaching staff. We have a variety of coaches who have joined our team over the last several years, super consistent, but more importantly, they are in our schools every day. We have found that the more interaction that they have with our students, the better off our students are. We're really proud of them, and I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you.
Commissioner Welch, as soon as they're done taking that picture, you are recognized.
Hey, before you take that picture, I just want to say congratulations, guys. My son was a captain on the Montford Middle School football team, and I asked him at the beginning of the year how things were looking, and he's like, yo, Pops, Fairview's going to be tough. All right, so hey, Montford snuck one in on you guys last year, but you know, that juggernaut over there at Fairview, congratulations. I just want to say you guys represent the school district in Leon County very well. Coaches, administrators, great job.
Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Cummings, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. While they're gathering for the picture, I just want to congratulate the coaches and all the team members. You guys are awesome. You're great. I've got a special affinity for Fairview because my son attended Fairview Middle School as well. So congratulations, you guys. And hold up, I want to get on the picture as well.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to say something, but I want to get on the picture too.
Go get in on the picture, Commissioner Proctor.
Mr. Chairman, might I make a comment or so?
Absolutely.
Okay. Commissioner Maddox, who's the quarterback of this team?
Where's our quarterback?
Landon?
Where's he at? There you go. No, you're listening, Commissioner.
All right. Brother Landon, how you doing? Good. You played my position that I played, and you got to be pretty tough to lead them to a championship. Congratulations to all young men. We're very proud of you, and we're very proud. I see School Board Member Jones, Board Member Jones. Okay, yes. And what I want to say to the principal, School Board Member Jones, is we're going to have a celebration. We're going to have a celebration. I'm going to pay for it. Commissioner Maddox is going to pay for it. at large. Commissioner Cummings is gonna pay for it, and Mr. Jones is gonna pay. We going to four of us. Anybody else wanna jump on the wagon? But we celebrate championships in District 1. So for the excellence that has been wrought, and please note that championship is a transferable quality, because the discipline, the perseverance, and those things that it takes to be the champion over football are attributes that you take into life. And if you use the same stuff, and stuff social and things academic, success will unfold. But you got the stuff because you're football champions. Just take the same stuff and use it elsewhere. So to the principal, what's her name?
Mayor.
Sister Mayor, please identify a date that early next semester, I don't know if a Saturday is permissible, what the rules allow, or after school or during school, but we're gonna put that amount of money to have a good celebration for the young men. And that's what I'm committing publicly. If y'all don't come through, they still gonna have it because I'm gonna pay for it. So, but I want your help, but if you ain't, I will. I want also to recognize in chamber this afternoon, Mrs. Vivian Hobbs. Dr. Vivian Hobbs is here. And she was a teacher at FAMU High School when I was a kid. And she knows, Attorney Hobbs, your mother knows, that at FAMU High we had only one team. So when I was in the 8th grade, we had...
Mr. Proctor, how long ago was that? About 80 years?
And when I was in the itty-bitty grade, we had to go get knocked around by the big boys for about 2-3 years before you start playing, but that you could play among and with yourselves is great. FAMU High, you just sat on the bench and got beat up in practice and all like that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. We're looking forward to a great championship, party, celebration, whatever you call it. That's what we're going to do. Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, next proclamation is by Commissioner Maddox recognizing Miss Juneteenth Florida, Corinne Hobbs.
Thank you. Again, this proclamation is very personal for me because these were my neighbors some years ago, and I got to see this young lady as a baby. So this is special for me. If the family could come up. Hey, all y'all can come up here. Family. Mother, come on up. Y'all come on up now. Mr. Chair, the proclamation reads, whereas Juneteenth stands as a sacred commemoration of June 19, 1865, the day when the final enslaved African Americans in the United States learned of their freedom, marking a turning point in the history of our nation and symbolizing resilience, perseverance, and the ongoing pursuit of justice. And whereas the Miss Juneteenth Florida USA pageant empowers young girls and ladies to learn life principles, self and cultural awareness in the program, scholarship, leadership, cultural pride, and a dedication to community service. And whereas Miss Corinne Elise Hobbs, a 16-year-old high school junior and resident of Leon County, has thoroughly worked her way through hard work, character, and vision, earned the distinguished title of Miss Juneteenth Florida USA 2025. And whereas, as Miss Juneteenth Florida USA, Miss Corinne Hobbs champions the platform of food insecurity, partnering with Hunger Fight Florida to help prepare hundreds of thousands of meals and thousands of books for children across the state, ensuring that families in need receive vital support. And whereas Corinne Hobbs has earned distinguished recognition at the national level, receiving the Best Essay Award, the Miss Wall Street Award during the 2025 Miss Juneteenth USA pageant, she actively shares the Juneteenth message of freedom, education, and empowerment at events across Florida and is spearheading an online book drive to provide students with books about Juneteenth and Florida's Freedom Day. And whereas Corinne is a passionate advocate for fashion and sustainability, working professionally as a model and recently gracing the runway for Color Trees, a Black woman-owned New York design house, as well as being cast for Orlando International Fashion Week. And whereas Corinne Hobbs is deeply committed to community engagement, serving the advisory board committee for the Florida A&M University Cooperative Extension and acting as a student leader in FAMU's Forestry and Conservatory Education Summer Program. And whereas Corinne's academic and creative achievements include winning her high school 2024 Black History Month essay contest, earning first place in the 2023 Leon County Schools District History Fair in the middle school documentary film category, and presenting the Lifetime Achievement Award to acclaimed actor Danny Glover at the Global Peace Urban Fest 360 Film Festival in Orlando. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Leon County Commissioners of Leon County, Florida, do hereby recognize Corinne Elise Hobbs, Miss Juneteenth, Florida, USA 2025, and encourage all members of our community to join in celebrating her achievements, supporting her continued growth as a powerful ambassador for the legacy and future of Juneteenth. This is signed by the Commission and attested to by the County Administrator. Congratulations.
Good afternoon. I am truly honored to be here to be accepting this proclamation, and it's been my honor to be able to service the Big Bend, being able to package over 140,000 meals for families who are struggling with food insecurity here. It's truly warmed my heart, especially with everything going on in the world currently, to be able to use this platform to commit good acts and to put good into the world. So thank you so much for this proclamation. And I look forward to working with the county in the future for food insecurity purposes. And thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Commissioner Proctor?
Before we take that photo, because I think Commissioner Hobbs is trying to exit to get on another picture, and I'm going to follow her, you know. Ms. Hobbs, we congratulate you in all that you're representing. And each of those sparkles and stars and diamonds in your crown represent so much for Juneteenth Queen. The legacy of Juneteenth, as well you know, is so symbolic but real to struggles ongoing here in America. As I look at who's behind you, your grandfather, Colonel Hobbs, great man. Your grandmother, Dr. Vivian Hobbs, led multiple championships of debate for Florida A&M national debate, looking to that. And your father, your mother, outstanding. And, you know, you think about writers, your daddy is among the very best of writers, and your grandmother's an English professor. I mean, it's tight and right. Follow the footprints, which are yours. It's called legacy. And if you just follow nobody else, me, none of these people, follow what you got, and it's going to lead you somewhere good. So we say again, congratulations, great family.
Commissioner Cummings, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, Kareem, we just want to congratulate you. We're so proud of you. You come from a legacy of great people, great educators. Your mom, your dad, Attorney Hobbs. I love your grandmom, Mrs. Vivian Hobbs, who is one of my sorority sisters, and you have just upheld that great legacy. So you're making your own way, your own road, and I see nothing but success in your future. So thank you. We love you and congratulations. And I want to take a picture as well.
Okay. Thank you all so much.
Commissioner O'Keefe, you're recognized.
Just while everyone's in the picture, I just want to say congratulations and thank you for being such a fantastic example.
All right, Commissioners, we are now citizens to be heard on consent and non-agenda items. Mr. County Administrator, do we have any speakers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do. First off, we have a couple of speakers joining us by Zoom. First speaker, Carmen Little Neeson, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Carmen Little Ngesa. Thank you for having me today. I am here to talk. Well, I would first like to say that I live in the Bob White area in the Sherwood community area for probably more than 20 years now. And then I've seen a lot of growth within that. We have personal, community housing or residence upgrades, and also the road surfacing. But there's one thing there are two things that I want to bring to the group because I'm concerned. It helps us to grow as a community, and so far certain infrastructures are not yet, not in the future, not yet there, and two of those are in terms of the fiber, internet fiber, and also natural gas in our area. I have made my research even recently to see that those are not in our community or at this moment not in the future development. What I want to ask the committee here to see whether or not this can be developed in the future, or what is the future of us having such infrastructure. Because what I see as an individual, it shows us as what you call an institutional, what do you call it? Someone would call it something else, but I'll call it institutional inequity. In the sense that we are not able to grow because what is in place is not there for us to grow. So is there any comment as to where we are in this area? This is a Sherwood community on Bob White Drive, and I want to see how this can be an item going forward.
I think that's it, Mr. County Administrator. Next speaker.
Thank you very much. Calling Max Epstein. Note, Max, it doesn't appear that Mr. Epstein is on the line. Final speaker, Jennifer Dom.
Hi, I am coming to speak about agenda number 12. The James Madison Institute, in partner with the Heritage Foundation, are both directly involved with Project 2025. The Village Square is directly involved with the James Madison Institute through materials they provide and events that they put together. I would like to refrain from using taxpayer dollars to fund such a right-wing agenda, as underlying as it may be. While I know there is much value in the Village Square program, I'd like the Commission to look more closely at the involvement of this controversial group and perhaps regulate the program more. Thank you.
Mr. County Administrator, is there any more speakers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes our speakers on consent and non-agenda items.
Okay, great. So,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, the last speaker was speaking on which item?
number 12.
Item 12.
All right, Commissioners, so we are on consent. Before I entertain a motion on consent, I do just want to say this. We have a very steep, or as I would call it, deep general business and public hearing agenda today. So I expect us to have a robust discussion. As always, I don't think this goes without saying, but I'm not worried about it with this board, but I assume there'll be some back and forth and debating. Let's keep it collegial and we'll all walk out here friends like we typically do, all right? With that being said, I'm looking for a motion to approve consent.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Welch, second by Commissioner Maddox. Is there any debate? Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you. I just had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
On that number 12, the Village Square events, do we know how much of that allocation is going to events that are co-involved with the James Madison Institute?
I'd ask Matt to come up and maybe provide a little information on that.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the contract that we have with the Village Square does not earmark any funding to go to any of those events.
Any of those events?
If there should be to James Madison Institute or any programming at James Madison Institute, our contract does not fund that. Our contract primarily funds the Created Equal event that this commission is aware of as part of county funding.
Gotcha. And so the Village Square has all other kinds of sources of funding.
They do.
Ours is only specific to the ones we focus on, for example, Created Equal.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. I understood the young lady's comment about Village Square, but I think the thing about it is Village Square is an organization that allows for, I guess, perspective and commentary from both sides. It is, I mean, Commissioner O'Keefe clarified, none of our dollars are going to any of those organizations, it's going to Village Square. But what I can say about, I've always appreciated about Village Square was the perspective, but it's getting the perspective of both sides and folks being able to make their own decisions about where they wanted to be based off of unbiased information coming from that organization that gives an opportunity for everyone to speak. But I appreciate you coming to us because when you were speaking, I was thinking to myself, the fact that—
Chair. Oh, and thank you, Commissioner Proctor. First of all, I want to thank Shenton Lamy and our Executive Director of the Children's Services Council, Sika Green, for all their meetings this last year and a half or so to make sure we can continue to provide valuable services to our community through the various agencies that we fund. And our president of our board was here, Mr. Darrell Jones. He's also a member of the Children's Services Council as well. Commissioner Proctor, yeah, I've read this, I've studied it, and I think they've done a good job with the realignment, but I do have a couple of questions just for clarification for Chinkton, if you don't mind. When I look at the 14 entities that are listed on this agenda item, several of them have been funded through the Children's Services Council and have done a great job. And so my understanding of this particular agenda item is that we are removing these 14 agencies from the CHSP process. However, if they're not funded through the Children's Services Council, I believe you all indicated that they can still come back and apply through the CHSP process. Am I correct?
That is correct, Commissioner. So those agencies that have been identified, so those programs, it's not those agencies, specifically those programs, they these are programs that align with funding opportunities right now that CSC Leon is providing. Over $3 million of opportunities that they can apply for. So, but again, and those are occurring as we speak for some of those opportunities, and some of them are line items, so they don't even have to apply. But for those who do apply and are not funded, then they would then be able to apply for CHSP.
Now, I want to make sure that the entities are clear about this. If they do not apply for funding through the Children's Services Council, is that an exclusionary measure? If they don't apply through CSC, are they still able to come back to CHSP and apply through that process?
If they don't apply for CSC, they can still apply for CHSP, but it will be made known to the citizen review teams that they did not apply for the opportunity through CSC Leon. But yes, they can still apply.
Now, there are some entities that the Children's Service Council has funded that are in certain stages of not being able to reapply through the Children's Services Council until certain things are done. Now, and I don't want to identify any of those entities, but if they are excluded from applying to the Children's Services Council, are they allowed to go directly to the CHSP process when it opens?
Yes, they can still apply for CHSP.
Will that be used against them, though, or those, I know you all use a point system when we go through the process, when you have the evaluators come to the various entities and evaluate the program, there's scoring that's involved. Will that be failure to apply through CSC or not being able to apply through CSC, will that result in a lower score for any of the agencies?
We share all information that's provided to us from CSC with the citizen review teams. Then that's part of our MOU that we have in place between the county, the city, and CSC, where we share data, including how agencies are performing with the funding that they provide, as well as how they're performing with CHSP dollars also. So they may be impacted that way. Also, we share information with that if they are a homeless provider, how they're doing with some of their funds that they get through the continuum of care. So all of that is shared because and it's not to penalize them, it's specifically to ensure that we are working together as the funders here in our community that to be as impactful as possible with the limited dollars that we have.
Okay. So to answer your question, Commissioner Proctor, I believe the Children's Services Council would sanction what's being done here. What was asked of the Children's Services Council early on was to adapt programs similar to the CHSP process so that we could deal with these 14 entities and perhaps other ones that provide direct services for children and families. However, the board voted not to do that.
The board?
The board, the Children's Service Council board voted not to do that. They also voted not to have a similar program. We have decided that there are certain areas that we want to focus on: early learning, which falls in line with the Head Start. And Head Start now has become a line item in the Children's Services Council budget, which rightfully comes out of CHSP. Am I correct, Washington?
Yes.
We are also focused on, through early learning, kindergarten readiness as well, and those entities that provide services for our kindergartners. One of the things that we are doing right now, we have RFP on the streets for our after-school and summer programs as well. And most of these entities are able to apply for those funds as well. The only thing I just caution, and I just know that everybody, and the reason I'm asking these questions, Mr. Lamb, is because I know all of these entities will not be funded. They submit their responses to the RFP. We have evaluation teams that evaluate the proposals, and then they're scored. And depending on where they fall in the scoring process, they might not be funded. And I can almost guarantee that everybody will not be funded, which is why I want to make sure that those that do not receive funding will not be excluded from going through the CHSP process for funding of their programs.
Yes. And so the only thing I'll also add to that is that I'm a little bit more optimistic because we have been working very much with these agencies to prepare them for these funding opportunities. We actually have a lunch and learn scheduled next week with ourselves, the city, UPHS, and we've worked very, very closely with CSC to determine what these agencies need to do to make sure that they're competitive and receive funding. But you're right, it's not guaranteed. It's a competitive process that CSC has in place. But a couple of things is what we want to do is make sure that our agencies are well positioned to apply and be successful in receiving those dollars. But also there's a little bit more confidence of the fact that these are not agencies that are new to CSC. These are agencies that have been previously funded by the Children's Services Council.
Absolutely. And so I don't think it's a disadvantage to any of these 14 on the list as far as a CSC process. And then we have some technical assistance with the Children's Services Council to assist any of those that might be new to the process. I think we had sentimented, we wanted to see if we could have maybe a joint venture or joint funding with the county and with the city, but we were advised by our general counsel that pursuant to the law that created the Children's Services Council, we were prohibited from doing that. So I know our executive director has tried to work as diligently as she could so that we can partner from a legal standpoint and not an illegal standpoint. And I think the fact that we have categorized and we, pursuant to the needs assessment, we have targeted certain areas to assist our children. And I think those target areas with early learning and kindergarten readiness aligns with CHSP as far as these 14 entities that can directly apply to the Children's Services Council for funding. So I think it's a great undertaking. I certainly hope that it will be successful, and successful meaning beneficial to our children, bringing services to the children to the point where we can see the needle moving. We have criteria to determine what programs are successful for our children and, what aren't. So I think it's a great joint undertaking. Congratulations. And the Children's Services Council, from my standpoint, is 100% behind this alignment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the questions and the dialogue. Commissioner Cummings, Commissioner Proctor, you originally.
I appreciate you allowing me to ask for Commissioner Cummings to frame her understanding of the item. And certainly there's been an aligning of the stars within the children's universe and becoming more symmetrically fit, if you will. And I appreciate the water that you carry and what you've lent Commissioner Cummings to solidify that seriousness of purpose in carrying out the mission of the CSC. There are two things in the item that concerns me, and that is our staff was not negligent, and our staff indicates to us on page 6, the bottom, that the Florida legislature is considering many property tax reform proposals, including placing a constitutional amendment on the 2026 election ballot that, if approved by voters, would impact the second year of the upcoming 2-year CHSP funding cycle. It goes on over to page 7. Notwithstanding, the legislature may also consider and approve statutory proposals that could significantly impact the county's FY 2027 budget. And I lift that up, and I appreciate staff not being negligent, omitting the real economic realities that within a month, Florida's legislature would take up in our very faces across the street. But with that said, I would like to pause and not lock ourselves into a $15,000 minimum or to remove the 7.5 cap. We're not even sure Mr. Chairman, what our status financially will be. And I think to set this $15,000 minimal award when we may not even have salaries ourselves, and, you know, Mr. Long don't have his salary, that would be tragic, but we don't know. So the item indicates to us that after the session, staff would come back and update us. And before we lock into, because I believe four bills have been, Ken Morris, you might know a little bit better, but that there have been four bills submitted for referendum to eliminate property tax in the state of Florida. Are we moving, or could we, with a little more patience, be a little bit more certain that we would want to lock into a minimal threshold of 15,000? We may have to give everybody 1,500 if all hell breaks loose and a measure gets on the ballot. So those are my thoughts, but I'll yield to other thinking. I would not support this today because the timing, in the face of what staff is indicating that the legislative intent apparently is to place on the ballot language for voters to approve. I'm very discomforted by that. But moreover, Commissioners, under 6, under the Memorandum of Understanding, Section 6, under the requirements for the citizen review team, are we still appointing the review team? Who appoints the review team? And it's been a long time that I can remember anybody talking about the review team. Has that slipped away from the county commission?
No, those come back to you, Commissioners, for ratification every spring prior to the actual deliberation of the CHSP series of review teams.
Okay.
Yeah, we bring those to you.
In terms of the appeal, on the number 7, this is, you see number 7, that clause, a clause, that that's just not sufficient. That's not due process to me. And I'm pondering if there is a quarrel, disagreement, how do applicants make an appeal? Because that's a little fuzzy to me, and it don't say much.
When agencies receive their award letters, those agencies that have been funded by CHSP or through the county and cities for CHSP, they get an opportunity to appeal what the amount that they received, and so what we then do is we put together a smaller group of the CRTs who weren't part of the CRT team that made the recommended amount to sit and review and evaluate the process and the appeals of that agency and that program, and then they make a determination, and then that recommendation then comes back before the county and city about the amount that they should receive as part of the appeals process.
Well, I'll say this and yield the floor, Mr. Chairman. I think that the appeals process should indicate something about the process should say a subject matter, the disagreement is, to whom you submit the appeal, how many days that you have after a determination has been made. You have 10 days, a month, year, something a little bit more definitive than what this is really not, for me, the weight of what I believe is owed to the public. I'd love to see us hash out something a little bit more definitive. And I asked the county attorney for the thunder of her thoughts in forthcoming weeks that this can be meshed out and we can get something that really is an appeal process. This ain't one.
We do have, as part of, as you can see, Commissioner, there's also a section that speaks specifically providing the authority of the county administrator and city manager to establish procedures, and we do have a procedures manual that goes into further details about the appeals process for CHSP.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I like, if y'all could provide me a copy. This is not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair, I'm sorry.
It's all good. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Cummings, for your detailed update on it. As a person who represents us on the CSC. I'm going to support this, even though in principle, I don't like where we have voters to vote to add new money to provide child services, and then it ends up being offset by other things. However, and that's why I pushed back on this 2 years ago and asked for, among others, and asked for it to get delayed. However, with the work staff has done with the CSC and the other organizations, I'm more comfortable that there is a path to still make sure that some key programs have a path to still get CHSP if they don't get CSC. And we are in a challenging reality, as Commissioner Proctor mentioned, and as we'll hear in many of other agenda items, where we do need as much homeless line funding, which this helps keep as possible. And we do have progress and information from the CSC that means the family and children services part that are no longer in the CHSP won't get just dropped. As we've continued to make progress we need to make. So where we are now is a lot better than we were 2 years ago. And I appreciate staff diligently taking our direction over the past 2 years to address what our concern was and bring back something that's improved.
Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I come from the nonprofit world. I spent some time as a CEO of Second Harvest, and I know how important it is for an agency to get funding for a program. I mean, your program and your service delivery lives or dies based on the funding that you get for it. And so I see that concern. I spoke with someone who serves as a representative for many of the agencies that apply to CSC and CHSP, and there's some concern amongst the agencies about the change. The CSC process for reviewing the applications is different than the CHSP one. And so naturally, there's concern about the unknown. But in my discussions with our county administrator about the process, the time between when CSC notifies the award applicants and the time when CHSP applications need to be submitted is sufficient to have an agency know whether or not they're going to get funded, and then apply for CHSP later if they don't get funded by CSC. So I think that process is, the time frame there, I think, is helpful to agencies that may learn about CSC not funding them for certain programs. The agencies do really like the CHSP process. In I think it was 2008, I served as a volunteer for the CHSP process on one of the teams. And so I'm very familiar with looking at it from that point of view. It's a really outstanding process that is nationally recognized as a model for how communities can fund human services organizations. So I bring this up because I want to make sure that we knew about the concerns from agencies. It's a new process. People are concerned about their funding. I've seen Shinkton and his team in action when it comes to working with agencies. I've been one of those agencies that have come to the meetings that Shinkton has organized. And so I'm confident that our county staff with Shinkton at the lead will be able to handle this transition. And if there are any issues that come up, I hope we'll get a chance to hear about them too. But this is a good process. 2 years ago, I agree, we needed more time to kind of get through and work through this. But I'm in a good place now. I think this is the right step for us to take, and looking forward to implementing this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Cummings, you are recognized, and then I'm going to go after you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Shinkton, I just want to just follow up with Commissioner Proctor. The establishment of a minimum funding award and then the removal of the cap, all of that's just part of the CHSP process, am I correct?
It is. That is part of it. And this is after many meetings with the agencies and talking about, these are part of the things that we're always looking at opportunities of how we can enhance CHSP for agencies, as well as providing access to our agency, so that way they can receive the funding and be effective in the services that they're delivering here in our community.
And since this funding comes from the city and from the county, this particular recommendation has to be approved by the city, or has it already been approved, or what?
Yeah, it'll be approved by the city also. Yeah, the city will have to approve.
And as far as we know,
That's part of the MOU.
They don't have any concerns?
No, yeah, they've been part of the reason pushing it too, yeah.
Well, you know, I've spoken, I guess, basically as a member of the CSC, but I've always been concerned as a commissioner and a member of the CSC about our agencies, nonprofits, those that provide direct services to our children and to our families. And that was clearly one of my concerns when this was first raised a couple of years ago. I appreciate you all studying it and working to bring something to us that I believe will be beneficial to the community that provides those services. But my line of questioning to you about exclusions and notice and what have you was specifically designed so that those service providers will have an opportunity. If they are not funded by one entity pursuant to an RFP, and that's pretty much the mode that the Children's Services Council grants funding, is through the RFP process, so that they're on notice, and they have, according to your analysis here, they would have enough time to come back and apply to the CHSP process. Now, I've served on some nonprofit boards that have gone through that process, and I've been part of that, you know, for years. And generally, and you correct me if I'm wrong, those entities that apply, at first we were applying every year. And then a couple of years ago, they changed it to a 2-year funding process, and I think we all appreciated that. But I think it's almost a given if you have been awarded funds 1 year through that process and you perform satisfactorily, you apply the next year to the CHSP through that process. You will always, in most instances, has been my experience, you will always receive funding.
Not always, Commissioner. Yeah, there are plenty of agencies that we have zero funded.
That were funded the year before?
Correct, yes. There are, there's information that we provide to our agency to make sure that they're accountable to these public taxpayer dollars. It is not guaranteed. CHSP is not guaranteed. It is a competitive grant process. It is a deliberative process made by the citizen review teams that you ratify and approve and appointments to make that evaluation. I think it would be, you know, they do a good job, our CRTs, in determining whether or not an agency should be funded or if a new agency should be funded.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's why I'd use the caveat.
Yeah.
In most instances, if you have performed and you've done a good job and they've got their performance metrics, in most instances, you will receive additional funding. Now, I've been on a board where the funding was cut, but we still received funding. So those citizen review teams can be anywhere from 10 to 15 people that come on a designated date to analyze, you know, analyze your program. So I feel certain that giving these entities the opportunity to have pretty much 2 bites of an apple, but it's important that that service level stays there for all of these entities, because it could have an adverse ripple effect on our children and on our families, the ability of parents to work. It would be, I think, a devastating economic effect. So I know that you guys have your pulse on this new innovation. It is something new. It's totally different from what the entities have been accustomed to. And I hope that we, you know, when we are analyzing, we are looking at whether or not to fund certain programs, I hope we take under consideration, I guess, the newness of this and take under consideration that some of them are not familiar with the CSC process. Look at those that are familiar with the CSC process and just do, I guess, a fair balance in the interest of our children and our families to make sure these programs receive funding.
Absolutely.
This is, I guess we would call it the pilot year, the new year, but if we can do what we can to be consistent, at least the pilot year, and then I think they will have more experience on how to be involved in the process from the CSC standpoint. But thank you for your hard work.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Parker, real quick.
Chairman, real quick.
Commissioner Parker, one moment. I want to ask Shington a question briefly, then I'll let you jump in. Shington, I want to break this down just really simply, and correct me if I'm wrong. We have our CHSP funding, and what we're talking about doing here with staff recommendation is removing a portion, or not removing, the funding will stay the same, but where that funding will be allocated to will change in hopes that that funding will be picked up by the Children's Services Council.
So what we're doing is Children's Services Council is providing actually a lot more money than we are providing in the area of $3.5 million for specific programs that has been funded in the previously by CHSP. And what we're talking about is realigning those dollars specifically so we can continue the funding of our homeless shelters as part of CHSP in line item funding.
Okay, where was that original funding for the homeless shelters funded from?
The federal, one-time federal dollars that the board provided to those shelters that have since will expire at the end of this fiscal year.
So we're, in layman terms, removing children's services from our CHSP program to supplement it with emergency homeless shelters.
Well, they're not being removed, so we're realigning those dollars.
Removed from county funding.
Yeah, so county funding is being realigned, those for specific programs in the areas of after school and some of the ones that Commissioner Cummings mentioned, that they're putting significant money into those areas, $3.5 million.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, thank you for the dialogue between you and Commissioner Cummings. I thought it was very educational. I read this item in depthly, but just hearing the dialogue was very helpful. Commissioners, here's where I am on this. I'm a no on this item. And, me personally, I'm not in the business of removing funding for children's services. I'm not in the business of doing that. I also think it's bad budgeting practices for us. We have one-time ARPA funding, great. Our staff did a great job using it, thankful for their effort. However, it's a one-time funding. What we're doing now is we're supplementing funding with our annual budget to fill a gap on a one-time funding, right? And so I don't think it's good practices this is basically like a tax and spend mentality. And in my opinion, if we're gonna spend it, I would rather spend it on children's services. That's just me personally. And so, it's tough times. I understand we're working with a limited budget. I think it's gonna get worse next year. We're gonna have hard conversations as a board of when it comes to CHSP and funding our nonprofits, which nonprofits that we want to fund. And I think CHSP does great work. I've seen the programs they fund with our Boys and Girls Clubs, with the after-school programs. I've seen those work firsthand in my district. Now, on the flip side, I think there's still some things that the Children's Services Council is figuring out. It's a relatively new body. I think they're doing a fine job. Would I like to see them fund more programs? Absolutely. But this came to us, I believe it was 2 years ago. I voted no against it then. I'm going to vote no against it now. I do not want to cut funding for children's services. And we still don't know what the Children's Services Council is going to fund versus what they're not going to fund. If it was up to me, I think the proper fashion would be, I don't know that we need a big workshop, but I think we should have all the parties in the room. I think we should talk about which program are you going to fund, which program are we going to fund. That way we know what's getting funded when this item comes back to us. Commissioners, that's where I am, but as always, we can do another round of conversation. Commissioner Proctor, you're in the queue.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Madam County Attorney, I want to ask, staff has forewarned us that the Florida legislature is considering many property tax reform proposals. But may I ask, is the Children's Services Council's funding contingent on property taxes?
That's correct.
My question was, are they?
She said it, she answered it.
That's correct, yes.
It is contingent on
Yes.
property taxes?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
So who among us will have monies to dole out if one of these proposals is passed on a ballot? And it's not, I don't recall ever voting against Commissioner Cummings on this issue, and I lean and follow the weight of her heart in these thinking in this area. But I'm not prepared today to commit to a $15,000 minimum to someone, knowing that the staff has amber lights flashing. That so I would love to see some language that they had a contingency, and I could go, Commissioner Maddox, as our wordsmith, could fashion number 2, authorize county administrator to execute a memorandum of understanding with City of Tallahassee Community Human Services to establish minimum funding awards. My language contingent on property tax vote. Okay, that just, otherwise, why would we commit to something which we may not have the capacity? Wakulla County on yesterday spent time, and they're going through proposals and listening to contingency plans, making plans on the projection that they may have cuts in property taxes. I don't think that that's a wayward exercise, and I think today that we're putting the horse behind the cart, and I think that we should wait on this particular vote after the legislative session to see what we've got to cut. In an abundance of prudence, it's just timing. It's not the substance of the issue. It's the timing and us making a commitment. But I think that we need to give ourselves a bailout clause. We need a bailout clause. We need a trap door, the exit in the event that the minimal funding that we've grown familiar in our community, that it's still there. If we don't put that contingency line there, I won't be able to support this measure today.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Minor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify a statement that was made. It was insinuated that a vote in favor of this would be a vote for cutting children's services, and that is inaccurate in my opinion. The Children's Services Council was set up, was on the ballot in 2020. It passed with 66% of the vote. I was one of the people out there advocating for it very, very heavily, because I believe very strongly in how Leon County should be doing more for children's services. Because of the CSC being established, we are now going to be getting about $9 million in fiscal year 26. Because of this CSC, because of what Leon County voters voted for. That is more than double what the CHSP Children's Services budget has been at $3.8 million. What we're doing is we're basically using the CSC money, which is now double for children's services than it was before, and then we are allocating money for homeless services in lieu of that. So I want to clarify that because, in my opinion, it's a mischaracterization. This community has doubled down, voted 66% to support an expansion of children's services funding in this community, and we're doing that. CSC has $9 million for children's services, double what we had before. Because of that, we're making changes in this, and this is the right way to go. We are no longer using the federal funding that came in through COVID. And so this is a step in the right direction. We talked about it 2 years ago at length. This is the right step. The CSC will continue. We're going to have more funding for children's services than this community has ever had before. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. I will respond to that. we are removing children's services funding from our county budget. That is factual on this information, and we are, from the CHSP funding for children's services of our county budget, we are removing that to supplement it for emergency homeless shelters. Staff just echoed that same sentiment. Commissioner Cummings, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to also emphasize that the Children's Services Council is concerned about what the legislature might pass during the legislative session. And our executive director and staff are already projecting what reduced funding we could have, depending on what the legislature does. So in response to Commissioner Proctor's concerns, I think that if we modify perhaps option 2, rather than indicate establish minimum funding award, eliminate funding caps, but make it contingent upon legislative action when the upcoming legislative session. And the reason I mentioned that, Shinkton, is because I know the Children's Services Council has an RFP out on the streets. I believe that the community, a nonprofit service community, needs to have notice. I think they need to be on notice. I'm not sure, but can you address your thoughts about what would happen if we defer this until after the session has ended, as far as service provision for our children in the community?
Well, since we have an early session next year, we will have, I believe, ample time to know what measures that are coming. So that way, if need be, then we can determine the best course regarding some of the changes that's being presented as part of the MOU. I did want to provide some clarification also regarding the funding of children's services by the county through CHSP. We're very, very methodical, again, based on the direction that was provided by the board, our conversations with our agency partners. And that's why it's very, very specific when we say that where the realignments would occur is in the area of after school and early learning and also summer school programs, because those are the programs where they're providing $3.5 million. $3.5 million is being provided by Children's Services Council for those specific programs, compared to right now, they're receiving approximately $1 million in CHSP. So that's what we're talking about realigning. However, there will continue to be funded within CHSP children's services programs for in-school, children's services programs for special needs, children's services programs specifically, commissioners, for homelessness. Right now, the line item funding that we provide for homelessness is primarily for children and youths. When you think about Hope Community, CCYS, the Refuge House, as well as Brehan, which provides homelessness to pregnant women. These are the people that are receiving currently line item funding as part of CHSP. And so, yes, there will continue to be funding for children's services through CHSP by the county and city.
So, Mr. Chair, if I can just follow up.
Of course.
So it's your, am I okay?
Of course,
Follow.
yeah.
So it's your opinion then, Shinkton, that if we could defer vote on this particular initiative until after the session is over, and that way we will know whether or not what the legislature has proposed will have an impact.
We'll be more than happy to bring it back to you, commissioners, if after the session regarding specifically the changes to the MOU.
So we're talking perhaps in
March.
March. Okay. But I would, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Of course, you're recognized.
a substitute motion to bring this agenda item back, table it and bring it back in March.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a substitute motion moved by Commissioner Cummings, seconded by Commissioner Proctor to table this motion and bring it back in when?
Just for clarification, are you talking about the MOU? Because the proposed realignment, that is something we want to know before, that the reason that's before you this evening, Commissioners, is because when it comes to the actual application for CHSP, those would open in early February, so that would be before session ends. But
Commissioner Cummings, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So you're saying option one, we would need to do that
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Okay, but option two is what we could table and bring it back in March?
We can bring that back in March, specifically regarding the MOU.
Okay, well, I'd like to amend, can I amend my substitute motion?
Of course, you're recognized.
Yes, amend my substitute motion to approve option one, but bring back option two as an agenda item in March,
Or after the legislative session.
after the legislative session. Right.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
By Commissioner Cummings, second by Commissioner Proctor. I'm just reading option two real quick. Commissioner Cummings, you have any discussion on your
No.
substitute? Okay. I have a question for staff. Before I get into Commissioner discussion. Commissioner Minor, are you in the queue? Okay, I'll come to you next. Do we have the ability to know what nonprofits and what children's services will remain funded through the Children's Services Council and which ones will not get funded? My issue is we are releasing this from CHSP to another governing body, a different process. So there could be some programs that we like here at the county, and they do great work. However, we don't know, once it goes to the Children's Services Council, if it will get approved. Commissioners, what will make me feel a lot better about this item is seeing what programs are going to continue in a commitment, which programs are going to continue to get funded.
So the Children's Services Council is scheduled to make their decision on funding prior to the opening of the, for applications for CHSP. And so that's why right now the timing all works, because they'll make a decision. It closes early January, their application opportunity, their grant application process. And then they'll make a determination late January about funding. And then by that point, and then the application window actually for CHSP will be for about 6 weeks. And so prior to the closure of the CHSP application process, we all will know what agencies and programs were funded by the Children's Services Council.
By what date?
6 weeks.
Within 6, so right now.
March.
It's in March. In March is when when the application window will close for CHSP.
So we'll know in March which services will be funded and which ones were not funded.
Yes, by the Children's Services Council.
Commissioner Cummings, could you include in your substitute motion for a status report to come back to our board at the March meeting, highlighting which programs were funded and which ones were not funded?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Minor, that's accepted?
I think you seconded it.
Yeah,
Commissioner Proctor.
Perfect.
Okay. Commissioner Minor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think the whole point about the agenda item was that the CSC application process concludes first. The awards for CSC funding are announced first. So the agencies that applied for CSC funding will know the result of the application. Then they can go ahead and apply for CHSP funds through that application process. So that the timeline works here, and our staff have worked very hard to make sure that the timeline works. 2 questions. Motion, option 1 only, does not prevent, basically allows the realignment to go forward, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And here's my question to kind of wrap up the discussion of different agreement between the chairman and I. As a result of this agenda item passing and the realignment, is funding for children's services, for the services themselves to the agencies, going to increase because of this?
I'm sorry?
If this agenda item is adopted today, you're going to have most of the funding come from the CSC,
Correct.
all right? If this agenda item is adopted, funding going to children's services will increase to the agencies, is that correct?
Funding for the agencies will increase primarily because we will now have dollars available for funding for our children's services through CHSP, specifically in areas of homelessness.
Gotcha. So yes, but for children's services,
Correct.
So you and I are talking about two different things. You know, the county budget for children's services is decreasing with this agenda item, but the overall result is children's services are going to get more funding from CSC, and so therefore they're getting more funding overall in the areas that we're talking about. That's the point I wanted to be very clear about.
Yeah, Commissioner Martin, thank you for the clarification. My issue particularly is the unknown. It's another governing body, right? So that, I feel a lot better about having a status report come back in March saying where is the updated funding, because there's programs right now, are great programs for the county. And once it goes to the CSC, could be funded, could not be funded, right? So I feel better about it coming back to us and potentially having a discussion amongst our board. If a good program is cut, we have the ability to go and say, hey, let's talk about it and fund it.
And I agree with you, and I support the modification. I think it's a smart idea. Those agencies that don't get funded by the CSC will apply to CHSP if they wish, just like they did before. So I think we're talking on the same point now.
I like where we're at too.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Commissioner O'Keefe. Mr. Vice Chair, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I understand correctly, one of the concerns is with budget and property tax revenue uncertainty and legislature uncertainty, the concern of having minimum awards that are larger and limitation of cap. I want to ask staff, those two changes, does that change the overall budget allocation of CHSP?
No.
If we don't make those changes, are we still going to allocate the same total amount for CHSP?
We'll bring the same recommendations to you in March, Commissioner. Yes.
Okay. So the other thing is that whether we have those two administrative rules there or not, or changes, we're still going forward with the same overall budget consideration. And should a catastrophic change in revenue happen in a year or 2 years, is CHSP funding the only department we're going to have to make drastic changes to contracts and agreements?
Go ahead.
Everything we do is subject to budget.
Yep. And then if my opposition to the substitute motion is that I believe in an attempt to clarify uncertainty, we actually extend uncertainty. Staff has worked on this for 2 years. You're not going to believe you're hearing this from me. Staff's worked on it for 2 years. It's pretty good, and let him finish the job. And instead of being able to change the MOU and change these two policies that help lower and reduce red tape and make things smoother, independent of any realignment, let's let him finish the job. And there's got to be another way if after being able to come back to CHP after CSC and coming back to us and still being eligible for CHSP if you're not CSC, if someone still falls through the crack and we feel that a community issue is not being addressed, is there another option we have to pick up and take a one-off instead of hold up the entire process and the entire change? Because I don't want to increase uncertainty for all of our partners that have been working on this for 2 years because of uncertainty of what will happen in the legislature. Because if we did that for everything, we wouldn't take a single action. So I guess my question to Chair, to Vince is there a mechanism, if we go forward today with your options 1 and 2, which is not the substitute motion, and something falls through after the backup processes, are we able as a board to make an independent decision for a separate budget for a separate issue?
Mr. Chairman, if we're talking about property tax reform, yes, because we wouldn't feel the impacts until the next fiscal year, and we could deal with that in the budget process.
sorry to clarify, I jumped to another section. If a program that doesn't get CHSP, doesn't get CSC, doesn't get CHP again, and we're saying, oh, we absolutely need that, is there a process separate from this where the board can independently bring an agenda item to give a program some money?
Well, not consistent with your ordinance, there's not.
Okay.
Again, this is, we sort of closed the back doors to the CHSP process. And so you've got that process, but again, I think we're sort of a, it's a little bit of a, problem.
If I may interrupt, this board, we can change an ordinance if we have to. So that, we have an ordinance, right? If there's a program, in my opinion, that we want to fund, and we're the Board of County Commissioners, it's an important program, we can vote and fund it.
So I'll just leave it at, I don't support the substitute motion simply because I think it's time to let staff move forward with good administrative cleanup that doesn't change the overall budget for everything and lets us move forward with the process that you've made so people have some certainty. Thank you.
Commissioner Welch, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm willing to go with the will of the board here. I would tend to follow the lead of Commissioner Cummings just because I don't know the minutia of the process. My understanding is exactly what Commissioner O'Keefe said. Staff's been working on this for 2 years. I think that the biggest step forward is option one in approving the realignment. I think if some members of the board are more comfortable waiting before they draft an MOU to see what the budget looks like or to get further information back, I think that's okay. But I think the biggest step here is the realignment. I think that that's very important. And I think that we've been doing this for 2 years now. The CHSP providers came in and were not happy the first time. They were still not happy the second time, and I haven't heard a single thing from any of them over the course of this item coming back. I think it is important to understand that while we're talking about a realignment, we're not talking about an abandonment of children's items in funding, right? We're talking about shifting where we invest our CHSP funding in children's items. So instead of spending it on after-school programs, we're spending it on homelessness for children, creating more beds for children through the CHSP process. And I think Commissioner Minor's right on point too with the fact that the CSC process will go ahead of the CHSP process. All of this done very tactfully by our staff. So I think that we're in the right posture to move the item, particularly option one. And if Commissioner Proctor and Commissioner Cummings are more comfortable holding off on option two in the MOU until after the session to see what kind of impacts the legislature is going to have. But like I said, like the county administrator said, that's really not till the next budget cycle that you would need to adjust those. So by eliminating or by getting rid of the funding caps or setting them lower or something like that to create more comfort really is getting ahead of the game because you're talking about the next fiscal cycle, not the upcoming fiscal cycle. So if it was up to me, as I made the original motion, I'm fine with options 1 and 2 and staff recommendations. But if it makes Commissioner Cummings in particularly more comfortable having been the designee to the CSC I will support her substitute motion. So that's where I'm at. But ultimately, I think option 1 is the big one. We got to really move that today if we can. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the collegiality, Commissioner Welch. Commissioner Proctor, close us out, then we're going to go to a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I think in 2026 going forward, all of our contracts with vendors ought to have some clause that contingent on property tax receipts. And I think that us committing not, and there's no reason for us to err. We're closest to the fire of Florida's legislative circus and what they're proposing to do to all of our counties. We can't miss it. We right there in the front row seat. And I think that wisdom compels us beginning to articulate we may or may not have it.
We got on point real quick by Madam Attorney.
I just wanted to reassure the commissioners that statutorily, it's in a statute. In all of our contracts, we already have a clause that says that the contract is subject to annual appropriation of funding. So hopefully that alleviates your concern, Commissioner Proctor. We already have that sort of a clause, because if we don't have the money to budget, that is a basis for us to either terminate or otherwise modify any contracts that we have going forward. We already have a provision like that.
Thank you for the point of information, Madam Attorney. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. That alleviates stress on my heart tonight. There's nothing worse than to overpromise and underdeliver. And so we would not want to be that board. So that's excellent. I want to ask one additional question with respect to option 2. I'm not calling Commissioner Cummings, but with respect to the City of Tallahassee, the Community Human Service Partnership, and county administrator, blah, blah. The point that I want to cite right here, which there's been some contention, the measurement of delivery or the success rates of delivery are the units with which we enumerate what services were met. And last year, this past summer, that was a question with respect to CSC and the accounting indexes for blah, blah, blah. I want to make sure that these 3 elements here and that the measurement, Commissioner Cummings, for what y'all doing and how y'all measure, does a lunch plate count as a service? Does a dinner plate count as a service? How do you count that? And I think that we can clean that up and make it squeaky clear that if there's accountability held to the CSC about measures and services delivered, that y'all is all on the same page, because I really don't want to hear that mess no more. I think that it's a hell of a place to get to the back end and you don't know what we decided counts as a unit delivered and all of that stuff. So to the extent that we can clean that up on the front end with CSC, I would certainly appreciate it, because I never ever, the duration of my time here, would want to see the CSC call in question and suspect as if there was, integrity issues. So we can crease all that out on the front end, and I'm begging for an understanding, same sheet of music to sing from. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. All right, Commissioners, we're going to call a vote. We have a motion by Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Cummings, restate your motion one more time with the amendment, please.
Yes. My motion was, Mr. Chair, to accept option 1, and as it regards option 2, to have that brought back as an agenda item in March or after the legislative session has ended.
With the status report on the funding?
Right, with that language, with the status report on the entities that were accepted by the CSC and those that weren't.
Commissioner Proctor, do you second the motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, Commissioners, all those in favor of the substitute motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Passes. Commissioner Minor, were you a yay or nay? Yay. Okay, so it passes 5-1 with Commissioner Maddox recusing himself. Commissioners, great discussion. I appreciate the collegiality, and I'm glad we got to a good point on that item. Next item, number 17, Mr. County Administrator. I'm sorry, number 18, Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number 18, Commissioners, seeks the board's approval to award a contract to Fitch and Associates, the highest rate respondent, to an RFP for consulting service to evaluate alternative models for cost-effective options for fire services in the unincorporated area. As you know, Commissioners, in September, the city provided notification of their intent to terminate the interlocal agreement with the county for fire services in the unincorporated area at the end of the term, which expires September 2028. Subsequently, the board authorized the competitive solicitation of the selection of a consultant before you tonight for your consideration. As you can see in the item, the scope is very robust. I have every confidence that they'll do a fine job and we're recommending options 1 and 2. We have 2 speakers on this item, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. First public speaker?
Daniel Waters, to be followed by Christopher Godwin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this item today. Before moving to Leon County over with 30 years in the fire service, it's nice now to be on kind of the outside of it, seeing how things operate. I want to commend the services that you currently have here in Leon County with the emergency medical services and the fire services being provided by the City of Tallahassee. I can save you a lot of money by telling you there's no way you're going to save money by duplicating services. By all of the infrastructure, the equipment, the staffing that's required to operate a professional fire rescue service like you have today, there's no way you're going to save money in any other model than what you have today. I'm opposed to this option of funding them. I understand your contractor. I know their background with it, but the fact of the matter is you're not going to save money. If there's anything I could encourage the commission to do is to get back with the city and try to work on amending the relationships so we continue that level of service today. Because the only way you're going to save money is to affect the level of service. And there's nothing worse than calling 911 to find out that your response time is only getting longer because of political issues. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak, but opposed to this item.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. Next speaker.
Final speaker on this item, Christopher Godwin.
Mr. Godwin, great to see you. Please state your name and record for the record.
Yeah.
Name and
Good
address for the
afternoon,
record.
Commissioners. Christopher Godwin. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to read from here to keep on point. I want to outline the structural problems with the current fire service fee and explain why full recalibration is not only appropriate, it is necessary. Because this agenda item calls for evaluating alternative models and fiscal options, I want to touch on 7 key points. First, the fee has no relationship to fire risk. The current fire service fee does not correspond to fire risk, call demand, occupancy, or benefit. It is strictly a property use code and square footage assessment, and because of that, it produces outcomes that are indefensible. 2 verified examples of what could happen is a 10,000 square foot quilt shop in Zone 1 would pay $3,840 for the fire service fee. A 19,000 square foot bomb facility in Zone 1 would pay $621 for fire service fee. In this model, a low-risk quilt shop pays 3 to 6 times more than a high-risk bomb factory, twice its size. That is the opposite of any standard risk-based model used anywhere in Florida. Second, the human impact is severe. A few days ago at the property appraiser's office, an 88-year-old man was trying to understand the new fire service fee on his bill. He broke down in tears, not out of frustration, but real fear, because he couldn't afford the lump sum. He said, "I'm on a fixed income. I don't have anywhere else to cut. I don't know how I'm going to stay in my home, because now it can be auctioned off." This is what a fee is doing to vulnerable residents. A fire service fee funding model should not push seniors to the brink of losing their homes. Another example for residential woes is Enon Church Road Trailer Park. It's worth $170,000. Its annual tax, which includes water and waste, is $3,400, yet its fire service fee is $4,400. And that's a verified parcel from the tax collector. It's 5 single-wide trailers at 600 square foot each. It pays thousands more than businesses 10 times its size. So not only residences, but small businesses are being punished. Businesses in the unincorporated area pay disproportionately more than similar or larger operations in the city. Real examples are bars, restaurants, shops, and service businesses in Zone 2 routinely pay $3,000 to $4,000 annually. Meanwhile, larger and higher risk industrial buildings in the city pay $600 to $1,100 with the same business model. So more real examples, 10,000 square foot bar in Zone 2 pays 5 times what a 10,000 square foot brewery pays in Zone 1. Small rural kitchen in Lakewood Village pays more than double Zone 1 industrial rate. Summer Smokehouse at 12,000 square foot pays $3,500 per year, while Proof Brewery at 34,000 square foot pays $1,900. I have packets to give each commissioners with more data to go further into detail, and would be happy to speak with any of you at any time more on it. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments, Mr. Godwin. I was just about to recognize Commissioner Minor, so I will recognize Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move option 1 and 2.
Second.
Thank you.
So we have a motion for staff recommendation, options 1 and 2, moved by Mr. Vice Chair, seconded by Commissioner Proctor. You have comments? You're recognized.
Thank you. Just one question for our staff. Has the firm had the city of Tallahassee for a client in the recent past or in the long past?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, they've had to, they wouldn't have been eligible if they had a current contractual relationship with the city. I just happen to be aware, just because I've been around so long, that we hired, the city and the county both hired Fitch 20-plus years ago to do an outside independent evaluation of our systems, but they do not have any conflict.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And I'll just say, to the important comment by the first gentleman, I agree with you. There is no realistic world where creating 2 separate fire departments saves money at the same service. However, what I want to point out is this item is sort of what we have to do is backup. I will just say for myself, my understanding of the posture of this board is that we prefer to be at the negotiating table with the city and prefer to negotiate an extension at the end of this term that allows us to keep doing things and get somewhere in the middle, because I believe we know that the current shared service structure is right, and it's not this board that isn't ready to negotiate and has made offers. And so the only reason we have asked for a consultant to study what our options were to set something up 3 years from now at the end of the contract is because we have been notified by the city that they are not extending the contract, and we have heard nothing back on negotiation. So I am hopeful that between now and then, we have a revised negotiation that we want to participate in now and then. But we can't ignore that the position they have taken is you're on your own in 3 years, and we have to get a plan in place as a backup. So I did want to clarify what this item is in my understanding. Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Vice Chair. Next in the queue is Commissioner Minor and Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Commissioner O'Keefe. I think if we take a look at what's best for the citizens that live in Leon County, the best solution is for the city and the county to work together to provide fire services to the entire county. Similar to the arrangement we currently have. I'm supporting the motion on the floor, and I want to thank Mr. Waters for speaking today and his comments. I also believe that the cheapest, most cost-effective way is for the city and the county to work together to provide fire service. If the county goes it alone, it's more expensive. If the city goes alone, it's more expensive. What this report does is it actually gives us a third-party, unbiased assessment of our options. And so that's why I think this is such a great step for us to take, because then it's not the county saying it's better, it's not the city saying it's better or not better, it's a third party, one of the best consulting firms in the country that does this work, providing us with the options. So I'm going to vote for the motion on the floor. This is the right step for us to take, because once this comes back, and I think the county administrator, if I remember correctly, told me this might come back in the late spring, early summer. So that will give us time to go to the city, show them what the options are for them, for us, and working together, and we can take an unbiased, we'll have a third-party, unbiased opinion on how to do that. Also just want to say very quickly, I want to thank our staff for the comprehensiveness of the scope of services in this contract. When I first started reading it, I was thinking to myself, I hope they include this, this, and this. Every single one of my points is included in here in the scope of services. It's going to be a very good report based on what we see in the description of the contract. So thanks to our staff for working so hard on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with both my colleagues who've spoken previously. We have a 2028 deadline. The city has told us that they're not going to partner or render fire services for the county any longer. We got that in writing. We've read it in the newspapers. We've seen it on television. I think that notice is significant enough we can take that seriously. And so with that 2028 drop dead deadline with which we would be on our own, we're either forced to beg the city and get down on our knees and beg, or we can stand up and act like grown folk and walk and take the responsibility that we have to do in providing for the health, safety, the welfare of citizens of the community in the area of fire protection. I am well pleased that our staff has gone out and scored a company, looking at the resumes of who they're bringing, that there's a lot of respect there. I am curious that this analysis takes a look, Madam Attorney, at the potential of what that ACLU lawsuit may mean. Now, we're talking about fees versus assessments versus da-da-da. And I want to make sure that as we're looking at this issue, that whatever steps that we've got to take, that they would be consistent with the court's adjudication and their pronouncement, be it in the district out of, if that's prevailing law with Ocala, and what might come out of the Second Circuit. That needs to be clear. I just don't think that this consultant should act, can act, and ignore the reality that ACLU's lawsuit about fire services fees altogether. I think another dynamic of concern to me is, the city, if this property issue is on the ballot, the city has a utility, and if property taxes are eliminated in Florida, all of y'all's and all of ours, utility is going to likely triple or quadruple. City can make some of that money back. We don't have an instrument to take in monies if we don't have property taxes coming in. So city's in a stronger position to go up on all utilities to offset property losses, tax loss. I am hopeful also that I think I heard that this should be completed by the summer, that there's a clear timeline, that it gives us a startup position to know and see our way forward. So we need to have clarity sooner, hopefully, than later. And then the amount, the dollar amount, Vince, I apologize that it might be right there in my face, but could you give us some sense of the overall cost that this consultant will?
107.
Almost 110,000.
107.
Okay. I apologize, colleagues, that I have not seen that, and I'm sure it's there. And thank you for 110. All right. Okay. I think that's a good amount, reasonable amount for what we're seeking. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Walsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Minor, Commissioner O'Keefe, and Mr. Walter, the speaker. I think that, in a perfect world, right, the city would not have put us in this posture. Now, I think to say it's political, I think is not fair. I think it's practical. I think that we have been put in this posture for whatever reason by the city, and this is obviously a step in the right direction for due diligence. I posted about the city's decision to give notice of cancellation of the contract, and I was quoted something along the lines of like hoping that the city would have a revival of responsibility.
recognizing that it is in the best interest of John Q. taxpayer that we work together, but we have been put in this position because the city arbitrarily decided to raise their rates. We did not agree with that, found out that we did not have to agree with that, and in fact found out that they could not arbitrarily do that. And so there has to be good faith in a process like that. And I don't like being in this position any more than anybody else does, but we really have not had much of a choice as a fellow government who was put in this position to sort of take it or leave it. And we have an obligation to represent our constituents and be fiscally responsible, which is why we're in this posture. And I wish this report could come back sooner. I wish that we could, I wish the city would re-engage with us. As a reminder, we sent the city a really good faith compromise that was summarily dismissed quickly. So I feel like our board has acted in extremely good faith with the city. I think we all want our fire services to be robust, to be fairly applied, and it's, to Mr. Godwin's comments, I think we've all read the emails. Those are very good comments, very good points. And so there are still some things with the fire services funding mechanisms that need to be straightened out. And we have a right to do our diligence to ensure those things get straightened out. Because at the end of the day, as the chairman has said multiple times, we represent 100% of the people in our city and 100% of the people in our county. And there's a lot more nuance to it than to say it's political. It's really not political. I've said repeatedly, I have no problem with our colleagues at the city, but we have been put in this position because we were told, you're gonna take this bad sandwich and you're gonna eat it. And we said, no, thank you, on behalf of our constituents. We don't wanna eat that sandwich. And I think it also speaks, I mean, if you look at the bigger picture, and I'm not trying to ramble here, but you know, the city of Tallahassee also raised their millage rate to take care of their police officers. We have taken care of our sheriff's deputies here without raising our millage rate. So I look at the county as extremely fiscally responsible in light of all of the conversation going on right now in our state about local governments and fiscal responsibility. And I think this is just an illustration of this board and even previous boards over the last 15 years not having raised the millage rate and agreeing every time to raise the fire services fee on the 5-year cycle when it was requested by the city and the actuaries. And so we have acted in good faith 100% of the time, representing 100% of the people in the community. And so, yeah, I would hope that my city colleagues are listening to this and would reach out and say, hey, let's figure this out, because at the end of the day, that's what we all want. But we got to take this step. And so I appreciate our speakers coming in, and I think they both sort of illustrated the nature of sort of, we need to figure this out, but we also need to figure this out, right? It can't just be napkin math. We have to figure out how we fund our fire services, how we can fund them consistently, how we can apply that assessment fairly so that we can get the best service for the best price. And currently, we don't really have a good handle on that, and this report will help us see that a little clearly. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Immediate Past Chairman. Commissioner Maddox, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't really see this as politics. I think this is business. I don't think anything happened that I didn't expect to happen from the time they sent the letter over saying that they wanted to increase by 20-some-odd%. As a matter of fact, I remember during the briefings with the county administrator, I all but told him exactly how this was going to work either way. And in our latest briefings, we laughed about the fact that I was right, huh, Mr. County Administrator. Before I go on, I want to take the opportunity to recognize former Mayor Diamond Johnson that's here with us today, and my fraternity brother, Pastor Johnson. So here's the thing. I gotta wonder if I was the city, what I would have done. Let's frame let's frame this the way it actually went. They agreed, we all agreed on a fire services rate that was set prior to them knowing what their negotiation was going to be like with the union, prior to them knowing exactly what the money was going to cost, what it was going to cost them to build, prior to the iOS thing that they had come their way. Then they got done with the negotiations with the union and figured out this is a lot higher than what they previously thought it was going to be. And us being the partners that we are, and them hearing from some of us how what we thought about their negotiations, they then went on to say, we got to figure out a way to pay for the increase that we didn't contemplate during the negotiations that we had with the county for the fire services fee. And as any good businessman would do, they sent over what they needed, which was extreme to us, but they sent over what they needed. And in a good faith effort, as the immediate past chair said, we looked at it and we sent back a negotiation, a negotiation attempt to them to see if they would agree to what we thought was reasonable to pay. They said no, and decided to go their own way, which is totally in their right. Again, this is business. It's not politics. This is all business. If it was a private business, it would work exactly like this has worked out. They said no, and then in the process of them saying no, we were able to figure out that they could not raise the rate through the work of our county attorney. They could not raise the rate without our approval. And so we asked them to stick to the contract, which was what any good businessman would do when they figured out they can do this. Stick to the contract that we got, and within our rate, within the county, and you can do whatever you want to. But we asked you to honor the contract. They looked at that and decided that they're the city and they can increase within the city, and they attempted to do that, and they came back to us. We said no to that as well. So, in an effort. We got, what, 3 more years, Mr. Administrator? We had 3 more years left in the contract. What would you do? You got a contract that can't pay for the services that you're trying to get paid for. What would you do? I would venture to say that this board right here that I'm sitting on right now, that we were in the same position, we would have voted to end that contract early because it's not a good contract for us. It's not a good contract. So they did that. That's business. That's good business. Now, of course, what do? We say, okay, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to honor the contracts. I'm going to play out, being the businessman I would try to be, I know that they're going to cancel the contract. They can't cancel it immediately, which means I got 18 more months left in the current contract that I could take advantage of the rate that they have now, knowing that if I negotiate right now, I'm going to have to pay a higher rate. So I'm going to take the 18 months at this current rate for my citizens, at the rate we're at, and then I'm going to look to renegotiate after those 18 months to get a better rate. The city's doing the same thing. They understand that they don't want to stay at this for 3 years. They'll take them 18 months knowing that we would like for them to renegotiate with us a new rate in 18 months. So they get to the new contract much earlier than they would if they played it out. This is all business. And honestly, I think if we're representing the county citizens well, I gotta say, they're kind of representing the city citizens well. I mean, they have a service that we're trying to use of theirs. And quite frankly, they got some costs that they didn't expect. And like I said, in private business, if whatever store got some costs they didn't expect, you don't think they're gonna push down that cost to the consumer and the prices that they charge the consumer? Absolutely going to do that every single time, whether it's rent or whatever it is. So it's not politics. I went through all that to explain the fact that this is business. This is business between 2 entities that are government. And we always say that government is not business, but in some instances, especially when you negotiate and stuff like this, we're two businesses. We're two businesses trying to represent the people who trust us to make the good decisions on their behalf. And so, as we play this out, I think the city is doing what they need to do. I think we're doing what we need to do. What I think ends up happening with this, I think we both come to the table and we negotiate a new fire services deal that's built off of the information that we found out through the various studies that will be done as a result of the negotiations that's been going on back and forth. Again, that's good business. And on the back end of that, the new fire services contract between the city and county will be much tighter and better than any fire services contract we've ever had, because both entities have dug into it and have fixed every issue that might be in that along the way. And so I guess I'm pleased with the business, I guess. I look forward to the city. I fully expect the city to come to the table. I fully expect the city to come to the table once we've gone through all the negotiations, once all the studies are done. Somebody said it's better for us to work together. I fully expect the city to come to the table, and I fully expect a good, solid fire services contract to happen between the county and the city without us having to consider taking on fire services. That's what I expect. So as far as that's concerned, I'm gonna support this item because I think it's good business. Now, the young man, we haven't addressed what you talked about, have we? As far as the changing of the billing? He brought up the issue of changing the billing from where it was to the tax bill, correct, sir? Yes. When we had that conversation a ways back and we voted to do that, I voted against it because of exactly what he said. I don't believe that we should have moved it from where it was to the tax bill because I didn't want to tie up people's property in limbo over their lack of ability to pay a fire services fee. I didn't want to do that. I liked it where it was. I'm not sure, Madam Attorney, we're already past the point, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. Of course. Madam Attorney, we're already past the point that we can consider anything for this current year. We've changed it already, correct?
That is correct. Not for this year.
Not for this year. I totally agree. I totally agree with you. I mean, I said it that day. If I don't want it on the tax bill, I kind of like it the way it was. Madam Attorney, is there anything that prevents us from going back?
The board has the discretion to amend or adopt a new ordinance regarding the method of collection.
I would, staff recommendation has already been moved, correct? Yes. I would like, now would it require a agreement from the city to receive payment in such way, Madam Attorney?
It would require the city to provide the information, well, it would change the exchange of data between the two parties. But assuming that, the city would have to agree to collect in the unincorporated areas they have in the past. I mean, I don't know that they would or wouldn't.
I would ask for an amendment to the motion to reconsider placing, going back to the previous method of collection concerning fire services for unincorporated residents that are on city utilities. I'll ask for that amendment to the motion for an agenda item come back to.
Mr. Chairman, is this germane because this motion is about hiring a consultant, not about a policy to redo collection? I'm curious.
Yeah, Commissioner Maddox, I would prefer if you brought that up during Commissioner discussion time, or we vote on this item and we can take up that up as another motion on this. We can vote on this motion, and since this is about fire services, you can offer another motion after this motion on the floor, since it's not germane to the one on the floor.
Make it a
Does that make
motion,
sense?
not here either.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I'm going to speak. Commissioner Cummings is actually in the queue, then Proctor, but before we go, Commissioner Cummings stepped out of the chamber, so I'm going to speak on this item. First and foremost, Commissioners, I say this, and I don't say this lightly. I'm proud to have gone through this process with each and every one of you. I think everyone in this room has brought a different perspective. And what I like about us is even though we've disagreed on some positions here, we haven't let it get personal. And at the end of the day, we're in a posture where we're together. With that being said, I'm going to support the motion on the floor. I think this is the right step. I do have a couple different things I want to say related to this, and I also want to comment on Commissioner Maddox's comments. But before I do that, Madam Attorney, I have a couple questions for you. Has the city responded to your request to provide an asset list from the 5 fire stations that would be transferred over to us?
They have provided some information, but it is currently not complete.
Okay, and so we're currently right now getting information from them. Are they being cooperative or something?
It's taking a while to get information.
Okay. A few things. One, Commissioner Maddox, I disagree with the posture of moving the utility bill, the fire services assessment to the utility bill. The city just got sued for doing so. There's case law from the 5th DCA that ruled it an unconstitutional tax. I think that does not put us in a good posture with a lawsuit. However, I do believe that the fire services assessment and the way that it is being calculated continues to be unfair and not equitable. And I think that is the issue here. When you look at our MSTU, what we do for EMS, it's no different than fire services. The only difference with fire, it's on the property tax bill. The issue with fire services is we have mobile homes right now in Leon County paying more for fire services assessments than they are their entire property tax bill. Like, that is a problem. I think the method of how we are going of assessing properties needs to change. People are paying, I met with Mr. Godwin yesterday. He has a property, he's paying $3,900 for fire services, and his property taxes combined are $5,500. That does not make sense. And so what I would like to implore of part of this is we need to ask our consultant, is the way that we're currently billing, is it fair and equitable? Because I would say that it's not. We have 15,000 square foot homes paying the same as fire services as a 500 square foot mobile home. It's not fair and it's not equitable. That is the premise of it. When it comes to method of collection, I am not comfortable having it billed through the utilities. I'm open to other areas. If you want to do an independent billing method or have staff bring us back other methods, Commissioner Maddox, I'm completely open to that. But we cannot bill through the utility. There is case law from the 5th DCA that ruled it an unconstitutional tax. The city just got sued for that 2 weeks ago. So, additionally, I personally would have never voted if I was a city commissioner to terminate the fire services assessment. I've said over and over again, there's good business and there's bad business. That's not good business. And it's just not. We have made multiple good faith efforts. The city didn't come to us because they had a budget gap and a 22% increase. They came to us and wanted us to increase the rate on unincorporated residents because we have commissioners that sided with the union in their negotiation. That's just plainly what it is. The union pay was a small portion of the increase that they requested. They raised the rate 22%, or tried to. We found that they were underfunding the fire services, meaning county residents were paying more than city residents with less service. Some churches were paying, some were not paying. They bonded money without our permission. You know, and I said this before and I'll say it again. It's incompetent. The mayor sent a letter to our board saying that he takes all his guidance from the fire chief. Well, the fire chief in the last meeting said publicly it was not his recommendation to terminate the fire services agreement with the county.
What?
He said that publicly. So it's clear that the city commission, particularly the mayor, is not taking guidance from the fire chief. This is petty politics. And we represent 100% of the people in the city of Tallahassee. It is our duty to go through this motion to make sure that fire services are being budgeted appropriately. Mr. Immediate Past Chairman, you said something great. You said a revival of responsibility. And I think there will be a revival of responsibility, and it's going to be the 2026 general election, because this is going to be an issue. And I've heard from voters, I've heard from neighbors. They are not happy with the way the city of Tallahassee has handled this fire services agreement. So I am going to say this over and over again. I am proud of the position we've taken. If the city wants to come to the table and meet with us and discuss this, I would be happy to. I've met with the mayor about this multiple times. So for the public to not think that this has not tried to been hashed out in the public, behind the scenes, it has, okay? So this is not about what's best for the community, for the city, right? We have taken that position clearly. So I want to be very clear. I am open to hashing this out. And as a businessman, I know what economies of scale are. I know that this is cheaper for every taxpayer if we work together and have one fire department. But the fact of the matter is this: it's going to cost city residents more. They have a budget gap right now for this fiscal year because that they have not yet to identify. And there's going to be a $15 million budget gap if they don't come to the deal and do a table, come to the table and do a deal with us. So, commissioners, I appreciate where we've gone on this, and I'm looking forward to walking with you all. And my door remains open. If anybody wants to sit down from the city and have a conversation about fire services, I would love to sit here and negotiate and come to a fair deal that's going to benefit county residents and benefit city residents. With that being said, Commissioner Cummings, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I promise I won't be redundant. I appreciate all the comments from the commissioners, and I believe we all share the same sentiment that at this point we have to be proactive and we have to exercise due diligence. But I just got a question or two. Mr. County Administrator, I appreciate the good job that you all did in selecting this service provider, and I understand you've got some history with the service provider, and I really believe we've got the highest caliber consultant that we could have engaged. But my question is, and I appreciate the list, the specific list of items that I know you provided to the consultant, and some of those requires data and data collection. And my question is, do you see any issues as it relates to perhaps gathering data from the city, or in order to have a full report, would it also involve gathering data from the city as well?
You mean like a public information request?
Well-
I'm having no difficulties in securing.
I don't anticipate it.
You don't anticipate? Because it would be pursuant of public information request, or just?
I think a lot of the information is known. A lot of the information we can glean from publicly available information. And we know an awful lot about the delivery of service. I think we know just about everything we need to know. There may be some minor issues, but I'm confident that we can work together on that.
I'm just concerned, and just want to make sure, of course, I accept your opinion, that we have a thorough report, not lacking any data to do the analysis for us. But I believe that the steps that we're taking, it's important, it's necessary. I support the motion options 1 and 2 that's on the floor. And I want to thank staff. I thank those that came and spoke to us about this agenda item. And I think if we had any other choice, we would look to it. But right now, I think At this stage, we're exercising due diligence, and we'll just have to see what happens when we get the report back. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Proctor, then let's take this in for a landing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to compliment the cogent and the passionate speech offered by the chair. Commissioners, I've actually heard one or two arguments on one or two items on this dais before. And I think that the combination of heart and mind that Commissioner Cavan just displayed was one of the tremendous arguments that I've noted, and I wanted to compliment the way he brought all of that together. I think that the word business, lifted up by Commissioner Maddox, is the posture that brings us here. And the business relation, we were ditched. Contract was canceled unilaterally. I don't know what terms equals a breach, but, you know, they have the Trumpian mindset that simply because we refuse to allow for the assessment of a 22% increase in the middle of a 5-year contract, that we couldn't find a basis in the contract that allowed for that kind of increase. And, you know, I know that the bully style of political protocol today is that, and we were bullied, and but there was no basis of which anyone could say that we breached or did not agree to the terms set forth. We did. We asked them to agree to the same terms. Chairman spoke about the business of there being a gap in uncertainty and unfunded $15 million. It's the bad business practices of the city, for which, though we don't articulate it, but it compels us taking seriously the moment to create the business of fire services. Maybe, just maybe, it's a business that's not above our heads. Maybe it's a business that we could execute and do better. Maybe it's the business, since it includes, and we as the universal government for all people in the city and in the county, it just makes sense that this would be a universal service spearheaded by the county, which represents all the people. But the city, it raised, speaking of business, when it comes to the city's business of Tallahassee Police Department, and when it comes to the business of the city's Tallahassee Fire Department, the fire department as a business entity in part was left out there for 3 years trying to negotiate a contract. They did not get the cross-the-board 5% that other workers of the city, family, employees receive. The business of handling fire, and as was pointed out, and I'm less empathetic because I think the city is hiding behind, its failure to do those fire stations, which were promised. Them fire stations were promised and committed, signed off on long before they start determining that something was awry and they needed a 22% increase to build those fire stations. Those fire stations had been committed to the public prior to our entering into the contract. You know, get that. So what the city as a business has done for its police department, they've done built a $100 million station. The business of business for policing, they got a facility that's, we don't know where the price gonna end. But that's how they do business. But the fire department, we ain't gonna build those stations. What kind of mess is that? That's why it's the kind of business that they doing that we can't respect them and the people don't respect them. Because in the business for the fire department, for the police department, they actually went up on taxes. Didn't get nobody's approval, nobody else's consent, didn't get ours. But for the purpose of their police, they're willing to go up on taxes. But for the purposes of the fire department, they're willing to kick it off and y'all go with it. So this business acumen is not Harvard Business School. It's not Wharton Business School, and it's showing Howard Business School, because in the business of caring for the entire entity of that which comes under your incorporation, you give similar due diligence, you give similar care, you give similar treatment and assurance that all units of the business under your name can succeed. We didn't do that at Howard Business School. This is a hell of a poor model. So we're out here because the business of the city and looking around at how they do business. We're talking about business. I like that metaphor. The business of how to sell a hospital off with nobody's input. The business of how do you sell a graveyard augmented with a golf course. Do you negotiate and you become the appraiser? You're the chief negotiator and you're also the appraiser and the closer for the deal? That kind of business. Give me a break. So I think that we owe citizens the standard of which we're reaching for. And I respect tonight all of our efforts and Commissioner Maddox, the standards that we're seeking to provide for the citizens of Leon County are consistency, a transparency, and we would not disrespect nobody's union. We would honor, and over the last, speaking of business, what we have done as a business the last 3-4 years, we've given a 5% across the board to all of our employees. That's good business. We've given a 4% before the last 3 years. That's good business. So I'm very pleased with the approach that we're trying to take, and I don't think that we have to stoop to the level of a business standard that is not up to par. And we're trying to raise the bar, and we're trying to also govern with an efficiency and with a respect for all people. And we don't have to hold our head down for that. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see us get this thing and that we'll take a little break if you'd afford us one tonight.
I'll think about it, Commissioner Proctor. I might just keep you up here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, Commissioners, we'll take this to a vote. I don't know who made.
Chair. One last thing. Okay, instead of asking for what I asked for after, I do think you had a point. Can we ask to be included in the study different methods of collection we can consider at the county?
Broad parameters that speak to that.
Is it going to be in there already?
Yeah, pretty much. We've got the direction to be
Okay,
able to
okay.
speak to the current model, if there are any improvements to the current model, including billing.
Specifically, if there's a way we can take it off of the tax bill. Just
It's again, I think there are legal arguments that may be outside their purview.
all right, thank you.
To follow up on that, I know I did some research, but this was a couple months ago. Before we, I'm going to say this comment real quick, because I like where Commissioner Maddox's head is on this. Some communities have a third-party billing where they get invoiced separately for the fire services, and then they just pay it separate. It's not tied to the property tax bill. And so, Commissioner Maddox, I agree with you. I'm open to other suggestions. So if we can include that as part of the study, just to bring us back, anything related to the fire services fee, how it's being billed, how things are being assessed. Mr. County Administrator, you're saying that's already part of the study?
It is, and we can do that. We can make sure that that's included.
Okay. Commissioner Maddox, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
As the second, do I accept that?
Awesome. All right, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, who made the motion? Vice Chair O'Keefe, seconded by Commissioner Proctor. All those in favor say aye. 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 All opposed? Nay. Passes unanimously. All right, Commissioners, we're going to break till 6 o'clock and we'll come back with our public hearing.